Hello, my name is Felix Obi, and this is the Engine Room Podcast, and I am your host. So today we'll be talking about B2B copy, and more specifically, boring B2B copy, which I guess there's a lot of. And I'm not going to do that because I'm no specialist, but I brought in one. Sandy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
So my first question for you, obviously, is why are you here?
Because B2B copy is so fucking boring, to be honest. And I have one mission, and that is to destroy B2B copy that is boring.
Okay, so that you've made that your life's mission.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
What kind of landed you in this B2B copy world?
I had a friend. He told me once that I would, be a great fit for brands like Innocent Smoothie, fun stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of copywriters who are renowned in that area in B2C. So, where can I take whatever I know and, apply it where it's needed? And that's where I landed in B2B.
So I think maybe we should set the stage a little bit. So I think we can all agree that we've seen our fair share of boring ad copy out there. Maybe in your world, can we start defining like that? What is boring? What is like this corporate copy? What is it that sounds like?
I actually have an example here that I can read for you. We increase performance through groundbreaking technology and innovative solutions. Okay. And it says nothing about anything. So in reality, when I talk about non-boring copy, it's more about being clear. It's not about being, funny and the red clown nose and being funny because people's brains are not wired to understand stuff like that.
Yeah, it's also very inconcrete, right? I have now that you're saying that, I have a funny example actually from Sparkforce. We have two clients. They're on. I don't think their services or like their software could be further from each other, but both of them, like they couldn't be further on the spectrum. Both of them said future-proof your business. Right?
Yes.
And that was just such a funny example because like, well, technically, yeah, both do, but it's just so, inapplicable in a way, right?
And what does that even mean? So what to prove my business how? Like physically or?
Yeah, it could be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we've kind of set the stage a little bit, is there anything you want to add to that? So is you had a great example there. Is there any like characteristics that is boring copy?
I think it's mostly the long sentences, and it's puffing up the language to sound smart or more professional. I think the hill I want to die on is that professional does not equal boring. But I don't know, somehow we agreed in B2B copy that that's what it is. And I think it's this maybe academic way of writing that people took from school, and they, it just continued into businesses.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened.
Do you think AI has made it worse?
Yes.
It's not just that people use a lot of AI to write, but also that AI has made it. I know I can see it on myself sometimes that I tend to write a little bit like AI. Do you think that's also a thing?
Yes, but it depends how you're using the tool. I use AI all the time. I can use this for the first draft. My big issue with AI is when you ask the robot to do whatever, and then you don't have the skill to validate the outcome, to know if it's shit or not. So yes, and also because we produce more copy and content in general, and when the machine is learning from whatever's out there, and most of it is shit, that's what you're gonna get.
So let's try and get into it a little bit. We're going to touch on a couple of different topics like stakeholder management. We're going to talk about how to actually be a little bit more not boring, and also what not boring means, right?
Yes.
Because it's not. We'll get into that because it's not just being funny, right? There's a lot of things. So the first thing maybe is, why do you think that teams, content copywriting teams in B2B are defaulting to this kind of more, flat, safe, what'd you call it? Yeah, those type of things in their communications.
Because they're not allowed to do what they're there to do. I just counted before I came here. I've been, doing speaking gigs and and teaching copywriting for 15 different audiences this year. And every time I ask, okay, so what is the reaction when you try to jazz up whatever you're doing? And the answer from the boss or whoever decides, or Dave from finance who has an opinion on your marketing or whatever, is that it's not serious enough and we are professional. That's the number one thing, and it kills the creativity in the marketing teams. So they stop there, and it's it takes the creativity, and if you get a no like a million times, you're not going to bother on the millionth and one time. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're met with that, what's kind of your pushback? So we're professionals. We have to sound professional.
Yes. First of all, professional is not a tone of voice. It's just not.
Okay.
If you dive into tone of voice work, it's a discipline that's very heavy, and I'm not going to go into that. But if you are geeking out on that, professional is not something that you can sound like. Number two is, the pushback
how do you give pushback, or like how do you give when somebody says we're not professional enough? Or
usually I show a picture of this Danish guy called Morten Mønster, because for most people he's kind of funny and he's very professional. He's worked with some of the biggest corporations in Denmark, and I ask them, how do you perceive this person? But he's kind of professional, yes. Is he funny too? Yes. Okay, so that's it. That's my go-to.
Okay.
It's gonna clear the table every time.
And it's not the YouTuber.
No, it's not the YouTuber. No.
Yeah, he is. And if anybody's ever listened to his podcast, like he has that ability to be very professional, obviously because he's great at his craft, but he's also able to, to do it like tongue in cheek in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So, and also I just talked with before coming here, one of the guys here, that Rory Sutherland, brilliant ad brain out there, British, and he balances the way of showing his knowledge and packing it up in humor, and British humor is just my go-to every time. So he's another example.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're getting all this pushback from Dave from finance and all that stuff. As a creative team, and as somebody who maybe wants to differentiate, I think maybe that's the wrong word to use, differentiate, but be more distinct in the communication, stand out and all that. What's some of the drawbacks of like not going out there and trying to be a little bit more not boring?
First of all, it's bad business. We know that, the B2B journey is freaking long. So whatever you do today is not gonna benefit for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, even 36 months. And you are reliant on people's memory and the B2B buyer to remember your brand and your brand and your communication. And if you do bland, vanilla, beige communication, no one is going to remember it. That's how the brain is wired. It's wired to remember whatever stands out, because back when we were in the caves with the clubs and looking for berries, we were designed to give attention to whatever stood out. Was it a saber tiger, or was it a bush of berries helping us survive? So that's how the brain works.
Okay.
So you're actually not working with the B2B journey, you're working against it if you're not putting yourself out there in a different way.
Okay, that's actually very interesting. So there's what I'm hearing you saying is there's a bigger risk in being boring than there is to actually go out there and have something on your heart and try to stand out a little bit.
Exactly. There was actually a white paper called "The Cost of Dull" that was made. I think it was last year, about ad brains from UK and America, and they found that 50% of ads were less engaging than cows grassing on a field. So that's 50% of whatever people are sending out there is super boring, and people are feeling nothing. So they don't have to be so afraid of people feeling anything. It's more risky, like you said, to be vanilla.
Okay. I think some of the things that I at least run into, and also some of the things that I maybe is that I'm maybe struggling a little bit with, this is, but what if we really are boring, right?
Own it. Be dry about it, maybe. You can because there's different kinds of humor. I don't know if I can go into the the spectrum that I work on. I've created a spectrum with the way I work with humor. So
Mhm.
you have the the innocent end of the spectrum is being dry.
Mm.
It could be using puns or little tweaks to your communication. So if you are a boring company, own it. You can tweak that in different directions. And then you have in the middle of the spectrum, we have the mainstream humor that could be using memes. It's not that risky to be in that field. And then you have the the spicy end of the spectrum. That's Ricky Gervais humor. That's the dark stuff.
Yeah.
That's being provocative on purpose.
Yeah.
So if you are boring, stay in the safe end of the
Okay.
spectrum.
Do you have any pointers to people listening on how to pick in the spectrum?
You have to know your audience. That's the the
Okay.
marketing answer number one.
Yeah.
You can decide inside a meeting room, but if it doesn't resonate with your audience, then you're just be fucked. So I would do different versions and test it out on someone.
Yeah.
See how they feel and
Yeah.
watch it live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it different? I'm thinking about Oatly right now, right?
Yes.
But they have a very broad audience.
Mm-hmm.
So that must have been hard for I know they're probably not spicy, but they're definitely very distinct in their way to communicate, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing an ad, and I think Oatly is fantastic. I remember seeing an ad where they say the copy was, it was an outdoor ad. The copy was just, legal said we can't call it ice cream, but
Yeah.
you can.
Exactly.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's hard for them to kind of pick out their audience, I would say.
Yeah, and I think if people they don't like that, they're just gonna choose another oatmeal brand. So that's
Yeah.
when you use humor and you use this distinctiveness in the way you communicate, you're just gonna weed out whoever's never gonna be a customer anyway.
And I think that's a little bit of the key there, because it's also about courage to do
Mhm.
it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's also saying, well, we might not be for everybody.
Mhm.
I think that's really the big one for companies who are maybe are in the vanilla bland
Mhm.
spectrum, that they're not really willing to risk it.
Mhm.
Say, because I think they also don't, they don't weigh the upside of it, right? Because
No.
then you're creating a loyalty,
Mhm.
because people,
Yes.
like the people who love Oatly, they're going to keep buying Oatly, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's a sub brand, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't taste as good as whatever.
No.
Um, so I think that's really that's the risk a lot aren't really willing to take, don't you think?
Yes. And I think actually it's because most I'm gonna lash out at the bosses here.
Yes, do that.
Because they don't understand or they don't know about behavioral science and they don't understand how the brain works. They think that B2B buyers are these rational power suits sitting at their desk looking at Excel sheets, doing due diligence and heavy research when they are, going to pick a supplier or a service provider, and people are monkeys. Uh, but we are monkeys. We are so fucking irrational that our, in making a decision, how we feel about a brand is more important than the logical part. Also because there's this thing called day one list. I don't know if you've heard
Yes.
about it. Yeah. So we know that 85% of all B2B buyers, they have this mental or physical list of whatever service provider within a field they remember. So when you think of accounting or project management tools, you probably have one or two, three maybe brands that you remember. So when you need that kind of solution, when you do your research, you're probably gonna go with whoever was on your mind already.
Yeah, I think it's like 90% of the decisions made are from the day one.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's very, very high.
Yeah.
No, I agree. So I think if we keep going on here a little bit, I know you have some interesting statistics about how much it actually costs to be
Yes.
boring.
Yes.
So for all the power suits out there in their Excel sheets, now
Yes.
there's
You're
time to
gonna.
listen.
Yeah. This is where you're gonna. We call it spids dine øre
Yeah.
in Danish.
Sharpen your ears.
Sharpen your ears.
Yeah.
So maybe you need to help me frame this or phrase it. So if you imagine you are doing an ad and it's very highly effective, it's evoking emotions with people. So you're either tricking, anger or happiness or whatever. You're gonna spend 3 times less on that type of ad if you're doing than compared to a boring ad.
Yeah.
So you're actually pissing away money doing boring ads.
Right. That's quite significant. So what you're saying is basically if my click normally costs 3 kroner for like a standard ad,
Yeah.
I'd be able to pay just 1 compared to if I was actually doing that like that's something that's worth, feeling, right? And then so that's one thing, and then there's all the derived effects we already spoke about with like building the following and like building the the distinctiveness and the tribe and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That has that's definitely something that's worth,
That's something you should slap on the desk of your CFO tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the financial reason why we should be more not funny but more humorous or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually just made a template for my newsletter. Send this to your boss whenever you want to try something.
Okay.
Because creative people and marketing people, they are speaking in marketing terms. They are not translating into CFO or CEO, and that's the big task. That's the stakeholder management.
I think one of the things we spoke a little bit about the risk, and the way I see it, it's risk not standing out. But I think there's also a lot of people who maybe find it challenging to how to balance it, right? So there's a way to be, humorous or not boring without becoming, the clown, the slapstick kind of thing.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? And is there any pointers you can give to how to, maybe tighten that in and make sure that you?
You don't have to, like you asked before, what if you're not funny? Then don't be. Maybe just be more human. One way to do it is use what I don't call it, but it's called conversational copywriting. So what you're just doing is you're mimicking how people are talking. Just doing that in B2B company, a B2B company or B2B marketing in general is going to set you apart from the competition so hard because no one is doing it. Everyone is using the same tired phrases. So just by tightening up your copy to sound like a human, it's going to make a difference. Yeah.
And is that stuff like instead of writing we, I write I. And instead of writing, Danish it differs, but it doesn't really in English. You versus you, right? So versus die and all that stuff. Is that type of stuff, or is there more small tweaks?
More tweaks. It's I can go very, very nerdy about this.
Let's do it.
One thing is that you can use, usually copywriters are all about killing the filler words, like so, and, but, stuff like that. And it's also, conversational copy is about breaking the rules. So maybe starting a sentence with and, or using, if I have to state a fact, I could write, comma, whatever point I want to make. So actually imagine that you're sitting in a car telling whatever point you're going to tell someone to a friend. That's a method I use.
Okay.
So don't imagine that you're talking to Brian from finance, but your aunt or your cousin or your sister or something like that. Use human words.
Is there any cases where you shouldn't? And I think now I'm not just thinking when you're sending the legal letter, right? Obviously you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I mean, is there any companies that shouldn't?
I'm afraid to go out on a road that I don't like in copywriting and marketing, and that's how I feel. My personal preference is that people are people, and we like being entertained, and people are going in and out of meetings, do boring stuff all the time. So if you can give people a little bit of relief or entertainment in your copy, do it. But I also know that some brands are not meant for, doing spicy copywriting.
Yeah.
But I would like to, I think maybe, I don't know, bio or medical or maybe I have some NGOs working with very heavy stuff like suicide or grief or stuff like that. Maybe don't, but you can still talk to people's emotions. It's not about humor. It's about, meeting people where they are.
In your experience, what happens then when you go from a more boring, stiff, bland type of communication into this, should we call it human first or like more conversational? What happens?
You get more attention. First of all, I know I don't like this, the bro-y stuff in marketing that because it worked for me, it was gonna work for everybody. But I can see that my own metrics and my own, content is outperforming a lot of other people. I've built my position around doing non-sucky, copywriting, doing, the opposite of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So it is gonna work because that's how the brain works. We notice whatever stands out. Yeah.
Okay. So there's two things left we have to talk about. One of them is the mullet framework.
Yes.
And I don't know what that is. I
No.
know what a mullet is, and I'm
Yes.
very excited to hear how a mullet ties into B2B copywriting.
My work life peaked yesterday because I was doing a talk about humor in copywriting, and I had to put an 80s mullet in my slideshow, and that was just
peak?
It was was peak of my career. So the mullet is it's not, I didn't name it the mullet. It was a Canadian copywriter called Dan Nelken. He's a brilliant brain, and the method is putting the business stuff in the front and the party stuff in the back. So you have the serious stuff in the front, we provide yada yada yada, and then you can put in the end something that is funny or dry or whatever. So that's just a way of doing a headline with a little putting a little smile on people's face.
So it's a framework to write headlines.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you use that as like your go-to framework for when you're you're mulleting?
Yep, I'm mulleting all over the place.
Nice. All right. And then the final question is, for the listeners out there who wants to get, to do less boring stuff, what is the mindset shift that you would encourage them to make?
You need to pitch your copy to your boss, and you need to tell them why you're going to do it, because you have a very fucking difficult job. It is not fun to be in your chair. Everybody has an opinion. Someone heard something about doing whatever over the hedge, talking to the neighbor, and then you got to deal with it. So your job is to speak CEO or speak CFO and pitch your copy. Tell them that you use this psychology. Humor works like this on the brain. Because once you shift from, asking for feedback, you're going to weed out, all the I feel and I think and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're going to put yourself as the, present yourself as the expert. And that's what you're going to do from tomorrow.
Okay. Nice. Sandy, thank you so much for coming. Where can people find you, connect with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not going to bother spelling out my name. It's difficult. And also I have this very lovely newsletter that I call the least shitty Danish newsletter.
Right.
Yep.
That's an intriguing title. I think everybody should subscribe to
that. So that's it. Don't go to my website. It looks like it's horrible.
Okay, we won't put that. But at least the newsletter sign up and your LinkedIn. Sandy, thank you so much for coming and sharing your knowledge.
Thank you for having me.